though. You mentioned the 60% of the income. What's the income limited to? Is it revenue generated, or can it actually be people investing in the club?
Yeah, as long as it is people putting in money, then it's whatever. I think it's about 60%.
Because all you're saying is you can't put loans in, so someone can still sink the money in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And that would be income.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we haven't seen Paul Barry, like, he was acting chairman at the moment.
Paul is still chairman, and is coming over at the end of April for the West Ham game. But we are in constant contact with him, and he is quite happy with what's going on. I think. No, he is. Other questions?
I came to one of his fans forum probably about a year or two ago. I remember Martin Lynn sitting next to Jez. I said, well, if you've got a 3-year plan, I want to know what Jez's 5-year plan is.
Right.
So now we've got to about 5 years somewhere. Nearly that. Well, I mean, Martin Lynn's gone off, you know, wish him well, you know, fantastic. He's done a brilliant job, really. I mean, what about your future? How do you see your future? You can't. I mean,
I see it that if you win Tuesday, you've got a chance of being there Saturday.
I mean, you can't sort of see you're in a difficult position. You're a board member and manager, so you can't sort of really sack yourself.
Pretty good position.
To be honest, that's a good model. And if you look at the Crewe model, the stability they had, bringing young players through on the conveyor belt, and then you move on. And they made a mistake and got rid of the manager, didn't they? And then did they not bring him back?
Yeah.
So we don't intend doing that unless we get relegated. Any more questions?
Now, what I wondered was, have you got a contract of any sort? Or
No.
No, that's right.
But I've never had a contract here.
No. He's lucky.
I mean, at the end of the day, contracts don't stop you getting sacked.
No.
So
But they cost you a lot of money.
So if I wanted to sack the club for some money, if they sacked me, I'd have a contract.
I mean, as Dave said, you know, the aim is promotion, whether that's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year.
Well, what you can't do in life or anything is you can't guarantee success. So all you can do is try and plan for it, I think, and all you can do is build towards it. And no one knows when it'll happen, but if you keep trying to do the right things, and you keep improving, and you sign better players year on year, and the club gets stronger financially, and the support base gets stronger, and you keep doing the right things, you have a belief that it will come. But I believe that the more you chase it, the harder it is to get it sometimes. So I think you've just got to keep believing in doing the right things. You believe in what you believe in, and then you've got to have the strength of character to do what you believe in. And the most important thing is not about individual personality, it's about the football club. Because managers come and go, players come and go, fans don't. So the most important thing is that, I think you used the word earlier, Dave, like people in charge of football clubs, directors, are the custodians of the club on behalf of the supporters. Morally, the supporters own the football club, don't they? Because it's your football club, from the day you're a fan to the day you die. And it is that. So I just think that we've got to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the football club. And whether that involves me as being the manager, or someone else being the manager, or a centre-forward playing, or a different centre-forward playing, the most important thing all the time is the football club.
And the more united we are, the easier it is to achieve.
How many of the present squad have actually got contracts going on into next season?
The ones who have, we announced 3 earlier in the season, and we say Jennings, Robertson and Coulson signed earlier in the season. Of the younger boys, Blaine Hudson signed a contract, Jonathan Thorpe signed a contract, and Luke Berry. Then obviously Andy Pugh, who we signed, Tom Shaw, we signed on a 2-year contract, and Harrison Dunn, we signed on a 2-year contract. The rest of those are for us to make decisions at the end of the season. Some have got options, which means that we decide, rather than the well-documented one from the fellow I saw last night. Yeah, and we're in the position, like we speak to the players all the time, so the players know where they're at and what they need to do, and we'll make decisions honestly about what we feel is best for the club. And some of those decisions are difficult, and some are made easier by the players. You know, if the players perform well all the time, the decision's easy to want to keep the player. And I think that we've got a good spirit at the club and a good togetherness with the players. Them all being a similar age group, I think helps that. And I think they can see that we're trying to build something that they want to buy into. So I'm confident that the players we want to keep will be able to keep. But obviously, as always happens, some you need to tie down a little bit earlier than others, and some have got more to prove between now and the end of the season. So there's lots to play for a lot of players. And I also think that you can't treat a squad as one the same. You know, different situations, different circumstances, different players, and that's why some players are going to be offered a contract before others. That's just a fact of life, and I don't think you can hide that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, what's happening about the Adam Miller situation? Is he likely to finish? Is he going to be pensioned off or what?
Well, I think it'd be respectful to speak in the right way about Adam Miller, because he's a contracted player of this football club that got injured playing for this football club, and this football club and Adam will be the first to say that, has looked after him absolutely superbly. And it would be easy to be like many other clubs that wouldn't look after their players quite so well. So Adam had 2 operations that ultimately weren't successful. He had further surgery about 6 weeks ago, and the outcome of that is unknown yet, because the rehab from that is about 4 months. So we'll know in the close season really as to whether Adam's able to continue his career or whether he's not. And I think first and foremost we should be respectful of the fact that that's his football career, it's his livelihood, and I don't really want to talk about anything except that we wish Adam well on his recovery, and we'll do everything that we can do to support him, like we have done for the last year and a bit, 18 months in.
Okay, next question.
Luke Berry, is he going to be wearing a shirt here next year, Jez?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Luke's a tremendous young player, and he's got loads of potential. We have to look after him, and I know everybody in the room probably wants him to play every game, me included, but we've got to do what's right for him, and sometimes him having 2 or 3 games out of the team does him the power of good, both in his development, because he can watch, see, we can talk to him about certain things that he needs to improve on, and he can see that without being in the thick of it, and then he goes back in a little bit fresher physically and mentally, because I think it's one thing, the physical demands of this league. It's tough when you're, especially someone like Luke, because he's not the biggest and he's still growing, he's still getting stronger. But the mental demands of it are great as well. And this is his first season of playing at this level. You know, he came in at the end of last season, did fantastically well, 12, 14 games. But it's a different thing, and I've learned that. It's a different thing when you start in August and the sun's shining and the pitches are lovely. And it's a long, long, long season, 46 games, demanding games. So I've got no doubt that if Luke continues to develop as he is, and is the same lad, the same character, and listens and wants to learn, that he'll be a player that can go on to better things in terms of playing at a higher level. But I think he signed a 3-year contract last year, and the reason we did that was we knew what sort of potential he had, and we want to make sure that we develop him further, so when he goes it's the right time for Luke Berry. He's not just going to go and sit in a championship club's development team and play training ground games. We want him to go and leave here, if he's going to leave here, to play at the right level in someone's first team. So that isn't yet, in my opinion.
Would you be looking at the squad of say 22 for next year, Jez? Same sort of numbers in terms of what you have this year?
Yeah, I don't want to put exactly like the numbers on it. I think what we need more strength in depth in the squad, without a shadow of a doubt. It's difficult, and I don't want to make excuses, but it's just fact really, that at the end of last season, when I agreed to take the job, the first job I had, on the first day I accepted the job, was to meet every single first team player and tell 8 of them they're on too much money and they couldn't stay. And then we spent quite a lot of time in the summer trying to facilitate them moving on, and 1 or 2, I mean like Danny Wright for example, we managed to get a fee for, others were more difficult, and therefore the finances were always going to be really difficult, and I got a massive backing and support of the board in being able to sign players before some of those went out, because if we hadn't been able to sign the Dunks and the Carews and the Tom Shaws when they became available, we wouldn't have got anything. and then we'd have been scrapping around in the same sort of way as, not been disrespectful, but some of those clubs have come down, like the Stockports and the Lincolns, who perhaps weren't used to the sort of players that you need in this league, and if you don't get the ones you want, you just work off a PFA list which has got 500 names on it, and you don't know anything from Adam, really. So it's brilliant of the board to allow us to bring people in, but we couldn't gamble and bring too many in because we obviously had to move people on. So at least this year we've got a clean slate to work from, and we know that we need strength in depth. We know we need more attacking options. When we get our best 11 on the pitch, I think we're decent, we're okay, we're a match for most, but we need to be a match for most without our first 11 on the pitch, and that's what we've got to address in the summer. And whether we can have, I don't think we're going to be in a point, say Fleetwood, 2 very experienced players in every single position. Luton probably 3 very experienced players. No, seriously, in every single position. You know, probably 35 pros. We're never going to get to that level, and we might not even get to the level where we've got 2 experienced players for every position. But we might need 3 for 2 and stuff like that, and 1 or 2 versatile players that can fill in a different couple of positions. But a strength in depth, that we're playing the young players at the right time for them, and with the right quantity of them going in the team, rather than at times this year 6 or 7 in at once, and it doesn't help anyone, and it doesn't help results. And back to that question about, you know, we're in a results-based industry now. It's not like Bonds is, you know, he wants to win football matches when he plays on a Saturday. I did when I was in this position, but the fact of the matter is we could always look at the development of the players and think about the long term, whereas when you're in the first team, obviously every result matters. So we've got to make sure that the squad is strong enough to get through 46 games and repeat what we did in the first half of the season, but over the whole 46 games.
Picking up on part of that, yes, obviously this year, if you like, for time, because like our bench has been ex-CRC players, which obviously is good. What's the convey about looking like now coming through from CRC, the players coming through, knocking on the door?
I'm going to let Bonds have a question.
That's the way. That's a bit loaded, yes, absolutely.
I think well, where we are at the moment, with the sort of 2-year scholar group, if you like, we've informed recently this week or last week that our 2nd-year scholars, we haven't offered any extensions towards them for next season. But the group of 1st years that we've got, we think are quite strong. The boy Liam Hurst at the moment, who's sort of getting a little bit of experience around the first team, is one of a few that we think have got a chance. And I think the one thing you get with young players in youth development is you don't get the same every year. You do get stronger years, some more than others. And in the process of deciding whether players are successful or not, you have to look at, 1, what's above them in certain positions, 1, what might be coming up behind them in the younger age groups, and how quickly we think they can develop and get in the first team. And that's the process that we have to go through all the time when we're trying to decide on players. So I think we've got some good players that will continue that, but it won't be, you know, when you look at the team, like you say there, a lot of young players in the squad, we've almost stockpiled quite a lot of young players. And like Jez said, it's really difficult to put too many in at once, and we have to be mindful of that all the time when we're making that decision. But we have got some good ones that are coming through, so yeah, we're excited about them.
And I don't know, you've watched a lot of football at this level, all of you, but there aren't many teams play 18-year-olds in this league. There aren't many. There aren't many teenagers in the league. When you look at the opposition, you know, young players to them are 20, 21. And I think that we've almost got a development group within our first team squad that's been playing. You know, there's times when we fielded a team in the last couple of months. We took a development group, well, we took a group to play Brentford's development squad. Brentford's training ground, didn't we? Really good game. They were strong. They've got a big budget for their development group. There's players on there you won't believe. Now that day we had a team that resembled, if I could name it, it's probably not far off what we've been playing in our first team. I mean, it was JT, Brights, Rory Wildy, Rossi Jarvis, Luke Allen, Jack Eads, JP, Pewey, Mazin, Hughesy played half each. It's not a million miles away from what we've been playing in the conference. So we've got a lot of young players in our first team. We've got to be really careful that we don't have so many in the first team squad that it actually works the opposite and doesn't do anyone any favours. We've got to be really selective, and the longer you go on producing them, conversely, the harder it becomes to break through, because what happens is the bar gets raised all the time. So if you're a centre half, you're judged against X. If you're a right back, you're judged against Y. If you're a centre forward, you judge, and that's how it is, and that's how it needs to be, because for the scholars that we recruit every year, we've got to try and recruit better players every year, and they've got to see the standards that are set within the first team, and that's got to be aspirational, that you've got to work really hard to achieve them. So we mustn't water that down just to get a quota of players through every year. We've got to be bigger than that and know what we're doing and know that the long term's right.
Okay. You had a question? Okay.
Out of the 900 kids that you've got in your system, how many Luke Berry's gut feeling do you It's a serious question.
That's a good question. I'd pinpoint it and say that...
I'm not looking for names.
No. I mean, what happens is, I'll give some individuals a bit of credit to answer the question properly. So, when you sign players in a centre of excellence, it's very, very difficult to add real quality as you go. Sometimes you get lucky. So, Jackson Ram, released by Norwich at 14. Rory McCauley, released by Norwich at 14. But usually, you only get 2 chances to sign a player. 16, when a big club said yes or no to a scholar, or 7 years old, before they enter the system. So our scouting, and this is when you talk about how many year plans, our scouting at the younger age groups has to be superb, has to be better than anyone else. We have to get those young players before they go somewhere else, otherwise we'll never get them. So Tom Pell does an absolutely outstanding job at doing that. We get an unbelievable group, and some were here Saturday, I don't know if you saw them come on the pitch. They were our under-8s that will join our Centre of Excellence this year, that have been through development centres. So they're the creme de la creme, if you like, of all the under-8s in all of those centres all the way through the country. Now, in every Centre of Excellence squad, it's really hard at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, I think, to predict who's going to be a player. They all look talented. They all look like really, really good players. I'd say to you that by the time they get to about 13, 14, you start to look and say, he's got a chance, he's got a chance, he's got a chance. I'd say in that under 14 group, you know these better than me, Bobbs, because you work with them quite a bit. I'd say we've got 4 or 5 in that group that we would see now under 14 level as potential scholars for us. And we hope that that's something that we can replicate every year. Now, how many Luke Berries, the gems, I can't say to you. All I can say is that everything's being done that's humanly possible and beyond for a club of our size and the finance we've got is way, way beyond what we should be doing to attract them at that youngest age group. And what we've had to do in the last 5 or 6 years is to catch them at the under 16 age group as well. So Blaine Hudson, Jonathan Thorpe, they've been released by clubs at 16. Because if we came in here and said, right, we'll produce a first team player in 10 years for you,
back to your plan.
We're struggling, and you know, when we first came to the club, there was a lot of scepticism at board level from a certain individual that we'd never produce a player at all anyway. So we've had to try and recruit at both ends. We continue to recruit under 7s, under 8s through the development centres. We'll continue to look at under 16s, but as time goes on and our under 14s become 15s, become 16s, the good thing for us is we'll have to look less at that under 16 level, where they come into the building and we don't really know much about them except they've been at another club, and we have players who've been with us for 8 years all the way through the system and been coached by our coaches. And when we talk about the Cambridge United way, I just think it's really important a club has an identity, and you've got an identity to support the football club in terms of what the club means to you, and the club's identity, I think, is a lot around the fans, because it is you know, all the things that have happened in the club's history, the club's been sustained at those vital moments by its fans. But we need a philosophy and a structure within the playing squad of the football club, because otherwise we're just another club. Someone will sign for us and we give them 50 quid more than someone else. And we want to create something that's a little bit different and unique, and that is that we actually develop players and we make players better, and that we want the last little tiny drip we can get out of them, and that work ethic and work rate and honesty and commitment are things that we take for granted, because that's what it means to play for Cambridge United, that's what it means to play for you. And we need to get that through our youth structure, because that's the best way of creating a culture and an identity within your football club, and that's what we really believe passionately in.
If you've got an 8 or 9-year-old signed on for the club and a bigger club comes in, can you prevent them going or not?
It's difficult. Yeah, difficult. I think sometimes you have to do what's best for the kid as well. We've got an under 9 at the moment who Arsenal, Tottenham and Chelsea are all trying to sign. Now, my view is the lad's 8 years old. 8 years old. If the parents and the kid himself think it's the best thing for him to do, I personally think we should let him go. And we'll get a small amount of compensation from those clubs because they know that they don't want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg, if you like, that they have to sustain us if they want to work with us in the future. But no one, I don't care what anybody, any qualification, whatever experience they've got, no one can tell me an 8-year-old is definitely going to play in someone's first team in 10 years' time. It's impossible. So I think that kid should be allowed to do what he thinks is right. Now, I'd treat that totally differently if we get someone at the other end of the scale where we've had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of development into a player. We have contracts that are between the player and the club because we can't register the contracts with the Football League for the documented reasons. So a little bit of that is a trust issue, but if it came to the crunch, we have got some recourse legally now, where if a club tried to poach a player where we'd spent a long period of time developing that player, I just don't think it's right to try and do that for an 8-year-old. If someone tried to take Luke Berry, now they can't, he's under contract. If someone tried to take Liam Hurst, he's not under contract because we can't put them under contract at the age Liam is. So we'd fight that. If someone tried to take a player that had been with us 6, 7, 8 years, we'd try and fight that and we'd do the right thing for the football club as well as the player. But I think when they're very young, you've got to be a bit realistic and see the big picture.
Okay.
Just a question for Bonus actually. A lot of us in here come up and watch the CRC games as regularly as we can. One particular player who I wasn't overly impressed with at the beginning of the season, but who has changed in all recognition since, was Yassin Ganor. And I just wondered if it was since they moved him from the responsibilities of being centre forward, just dropping back and playing a little bit deeper, he's been a different player. And I wonder whether he was one that was going to be considered for, for staying at the club or whatever.
Yeah, I think they're all considered, and that definitely did help him, that little positional bit, and he's got some good qualities in there. Again, you have to look at what's above and how quickly can he get in the first team. When you think Luke Berry plays in the hole, Andy Pugh plays in the hole, we've got other players that can do it. How quickly can he overtake them? And what you have to be really careful doing is just clogging that little system up. And you've got someone like, for example, Liam Hurst, who arguably that might be his better position. You can't block the pathway for someone that you might think's got a better chance than somebody else, and you just have to be really careful of it. And they're not easy decisions, and you do end up sometimes saying no to players that have done well, perhaps. But you have to, the one thing you could give everyone a contract, but the other thing is you have to look what's best for the club, but also what's best for the player. And if they're not going to get the opportunity that they're going to need to develop at the quickest rate they can, then you're almost doing them you're almost harming their chances if you put them in that environment. So someone like Yas, for example, might be better off going and playing at a level better than what CRC play at, and developing his game elsewhere. And sometimes you have to be brave enough to make them decisions and allow them to do that. And whether we're right or wrong, time will tell. But you just have to think about that a little bit sometimes, and that's where we were on that sort of decision.
One thing we haven't talked about is the centenary, and the first event is the West Ham game, and then we're looking at a series pre-season games in there to celebrate the centenary, memorabilia, new badge, new kit and everything, and then 2013 a gala dinner which is aimed at the fans, not corporates, which will be with players and legends of the football club. So a whole series of events are being planned and we'll release them as we can. The other thing, David Matthew Jones's museum, Coconuts, if you go and have a look at that will show you why we are Cambridge United fans and the great history of this club. Any other questions, or can we go home?
Yes, I've got a question on a slightly different track, this aimed at you.
Yeah.
On the message board there's been a lot about obviously the season ticket price increase and everything else. But one of the things that was mentioned on there was like a 10-game season ticket. So for people that work shifts, that don't live in Cambridge,
We haven't dismissed that, and it's a good question, because one of the groups of people that I think we probably aren't looking after, we say you get to 16 and then you have a student concession if you're in full-time education. But what about the kids who leave school at 16 and are on, job seekers allowance and everything like that? So I think we need to be looking at whether we can come up with something. It'll have to be a match-by-match game, because you couldn't give them a job seekers allowance season ticket, because they might get a job the next week. And it's how do you police it? But I think it is a group of people that we've forgotten about, and also, as you say, people who work on Tuesdays or work on Saturdays might like a 10-book Tuesday match.
I mean, it's better to get 150 quid.
Oh yeah. But we'll do that once we've gone through the whole season ticket thing, and then work on that. But as I say, that's the other group I think we've forgotten, is the people who've left school and gone into work.
I've got one problem, Jez, and you won't thank me for it, sorry.
That's right.
There's a general, although we're in a results-based industry, but there's a real perception around the fans that we're playing negative football. Comments?
You need to be strong enough to play positive football. So I don't know whether. So you need the ball to be able to play positive football, and you need a strong enough team to be able to play positive football. So I thought it was quite positive against Wrexham on Saturday, at my view. But that's because the 11 was stronger than some of the games that we've played. And those players go on the pitch doing everything they can, and we want to score goals, and we want to be excited, and we want to be positive. But when you put a team on the pitch that you know really is going to be at their full limit to compete in that game, what I won't do is just say, right, we'll get beat 5-0. So I think early in the season, I thought we played okay stuff at home. And first 13 games here in the league, I think we averaged about 2 goals a game, and we lost 1. And the team was quite consistent in selection. And I thought there were some decent performances. I thought Braintree were good over Christmas. I thought the Southport game was okay. And I thought there were some hard-earned 2-0 wins, like we rode a lucky 1 or 2 of them, but we tried to be positive as much as we could. We've got to a little spell in home games, especially, where as you're writing down your team as a manager, you're asking a lot of the players because the team doesn't look strong enough to go and compete. I remember when we played Mansfield, I think that was our best result of the season, so it's ridiculous. I'm going to say that, but the fact that young group against such a big, strong... if you looked at it and it was a boxing match, you wouldn't let them go on the pitch, because they were so physically bigger, stronger, more experienced and powerful than we were, and we worked so hard not to get stuffed that night. Now, I think there just has to be a little bit of realisation where we are. Away from home, I'll make no bones about it. I think if we can go and frustrate the life out of people, be good at sitting in, being good at hard to break down, hard to beat, and take points off people, I'm happy to do that. What we've got to do is evolve the team so the team's stronger. We need to evolve the team so that we can go to places where we're better than the opposition and win 2 or 3-0. We need to be a team that can play on the front foot at home and take the game by the scruff of the neck and create chances and score goals and create excitement, because that's what everyone wants. But when you know the team you've got, sometimes you have to be a little bit pragmatic and do the best you can with the group of players that are available to you. And I was here, and I'm not, and I don't want you to write this, but I'm not commenting on the previous regime, but it's easy to get beat 4s and 5s and everything goes out the window then. Everything. Confidence goes, shattered, young group, that you don't do them any good. So I think we've been resilient, we've been hard working, we've stayed in games, we've competed even in games where the opposition's been better than us. What we've got to do is be better than the opposition so we can create chances to score goals. That's where I'm at with it.
But we've got another year's experience, Jez has got another year's experience, and we've got 60 points with 6 games to go.
And we need to make sure that we've got different options. We tried something different against Wrexham on Saturday because we thought that might cause them a problem. We haven't been able to do that very many times this year, because the last 2 or 3 months, it's literally at times been the 11 fittest left to play. So we need to we need better players in terms of more strength in depth, different options so that we can cause the opposition a bit of problems, we can be less predictable, because I think even when we had players available, there was a little bit of a thing went round, like if you can stop Duncan Carew, you stop us playing a little bit. and people doubled up on them, and it made them less effective, and therefore it made us less effective. But you need players to give you the option of plan B, plan C, plan D, and that's what we need to do. We need to add quality to the squad, add experience to the squad in the summer, so that we can play slightly differently at times and cause the opposition different problems.
Okay, question there.
You touched upon the team developing. How do you think yourself has developed as a manager over the past year?
Good question.
Because like most of us in this room, listen to you avidly on the radio and listen to your every word. And one of the words that I use a lot that I think we miss at times, both on the field and maybe yourself at times, and maybe you might admit to this, is the word nous. And I know that comes with experience. And maybe, do you think you're getting more nous yourself? I don't know, I know you get more grey hair, but...
I think that I've learned a lot of what this job's about, and it's not very much about Saturday afternoons. There's loads of things to deal with all the time, especially when you've got a young group of players. I think that it's interesting. I'll give you a little thing about nous and tactics and stuff like that, right? I've read in the last 3 days that we played about 5 different systems against Wrexham. So the guy who did my comments afterwards said we played a dynamic 4-2-1-3 rather than our usual 4-4-1-1 or our 4-5-1. Someone else put that we played 4-3-3. Now, does anyone in this room, can anyone tell me the difference between any of them that I've just said?
Good.
Because the fact of football is, there's 2 different systems, one with the ball, one without the ball. And what you try and do is, you try and make the opposition not know what you've got with the ball, because you don't want to play 4-4-1-1. It needs to be fluid. What you need to do is, without the ball, you need to be difficult to beat, in my opinion. So that's when you get your banks of 4, or you get 5 in midfield, or whatever else. So believe it or not, our system on Saturday against Wrexham wasn't very different to what we played earlier in the season. What happens is, when different players with different qualities play in different positions, the system looks different. Now, what we need to have, I think, is more options, especially going forward, attacking threats, so that we can change things from time to time. And so Wrexham, we played that system because I thought Dean Keats would be a really influential player for them. I've seen them play before. And we needed Luke Berry to get in amongst him. Someone said to me in the bar here on Saturday after the game, the only thing is, I wish we played 2 up front today, because they never had the ball and they didn't dictate, and we stopped them playing. I said, well, we need 12 then, because the reason we did that was because Luke Berry stopped that lad playing. And then we thought Pewey would be, he's good at that, playing high, even though he's not the biggest, that he would, the 2 big ones would find him more difficult to handle than just having a scrap with Gashi. But we needed height because they're dangerous from set plays, and if we got 2 big wide players against their 2 smaller fullbacks, something different for them to handle. So we're able to do that. But we haven't had them options too often this season. So now, I think experience always makes you cleverer and better, and you're always learning. I'm very critical of myself, so I'm always looking at the details and whatever else. I think you can over-egg tactics in this league, to be honest. The ball changes hands so many times. I don't think tactics plays as big a part as everyone thinks it does. I just think you have to be organised. So you have to be hard to score against. And with that, and you know, we've gone to some tough places and been hard to score against. We need better players sometimes so that we can be a bit of an attacking threat. And sometimes we're going to have to risk losing a little bit of defensive organisation and discipline to have some of that. And at the right time, we've got to do that. I haven't stood too many times thinking, my God, this fella's out of my league, the bloke next to me in the opposition dugout, and there's no way I can live with it, being honest with you. Yeah. But there's times where you stand on a touchline, and if you say, why is he doing that, I'm saying the same thing. Because players are human beings. Yeah. And as much as you try and indoctrinate a way of playing, and you go through your set plays, and in the first set play someone does the wrong thing, and it is frustrating, and it's difficult, and there's not as much as you think you can do from the sideline. That's what I've learned. So you really, the only thing you can keep doing is do the right things in training, keep saying the right things to them, keep on at them, keep trying to do the right things, and then you have to trust them on a Saturday to go and do it, because you can, you know, you try and shout, you try and get messages on, but the players will be what they are on a Saturday. Our job is to try and get the right work into them every week, Monday to Friday, get them as fit as they can be, as organised, understand what we want from them, and try and get them in the right frame of mind to go out and play. And that's where, I'm not passing the buck here, but that's where here especially, the crowd does play a massive part. Because again, you should say they're professionals, they should be able to handle everything, but what comes from the terraces and the stand, they're human beings, and they're young human beings, and it does help them when there's a really positive atmosphere in the ground. And when it's, you know, like the edgy nights of we shouldn't really be playing this lot and we should be beating them and we should be 4-0 up in 20 minutes, that anxiety or that frustration, it does get to them a little bit as well. We've got to make them mentally stronger, and we've got to make them better to handle that. And I also understand that what happens on the pitch then is generated what happens in the stand. So if the team's at it, then everyone gets behind them. It's a chicken and egg thing with that as well. But I think that it's a very, very difficult and complex job, this. So I can see why a lot of people get into it and a lot of people get sacked. Because there's so many variables, so many decisions you have to make every single minute of every day, and so many things that are out of your control.
And you have more hacks than most managers as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I think knowing the football club, I think that helps me. You know.
But you are right. He goes to planning meetings at the stadium. He's all over the place, matches, and we're very lucky to have him.
Well, I think it was Dion who said that he's Mr. Cambridge United.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that, but I just think the Youth and Community Trust is really important, and it's important we keep that financially right. So I'm obviously interested in that. I think that I'm not that tight. I don't want to be a first team manager that's interested in the first team and home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're trying to create a culture where the players don't want to be home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon either, because they want to work, because they want to get better, because they want to be successful. And they understand that you can't be successful without working hard first and without wanting to get better. So that's the culture we're trying to create. In the short term, it's like everything. You know that when you lose a number of matches or there's disappointing performances or results, that you're under some pressure. I still feel that myself. And sometimes I'm too honest, perhaps, when I speak after games, because I'm disappointed and I'm frustrated, and I say how I think it is. But the most important thing is that we keep trying to do the right thing for the long term of the club. And that's the one thing I can promise you. I wouldn't compromise a decision that's right in the short term to be wrong in the long term for the club. I think it's important that we keep trying to do the right things in the long term. And if that means at some point in the time is someone else being the manager, that's what I said after one game when it was headlines. Aaron's editors are like that, it's not Aaron. That's what I feel, honestly. Because I think that...
Well, I think that everyone, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, certainly personally speaking, I love the passion you've got for the club. It's so different compared to what we had previously, so where it felt like the previous income didn't really care. And we know you care, and we know that you make mistakes, but hopefully we'll all get there together.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said at the start, I mean, we've got an inexperienced team, but we've also got an experienced manager.
Yeah.
So we're all learning together, and there's we work hard and we try and get better. And it is, I mean, I think a lot of a manager's job as well is getting good people around him. I really do. You know, I look at managers, and you might let this, the previous people here. You say, well, how on earth could he be second in the league above us? But it's the right situation at the right time with the right group of players. And some managers manage a group of players particularly well, but then can't manage a different. I wouldn't be the manager if the budget was 1.5 million. I wouldn't be the manager here if we was going to get 30-year-old experienced players, because that wouldn't be what I've got any knowledge or expertise in at all. And you'd get someone else who's done it somewhere else. At this moment, if we've got a small budget and we need to scout players and we need to develop our own and we need to work to the ethos of the club, that's why I'm in this seat, I suppose. But Bonds is fantastic at his job. The biggest support I get here is that perhaps with some managers at different clubs, you always wonder what the staff are saying, and you always wonder what the board are thinking, and you get paranoid. You do. It's a lonely job. I don't think that at all. Everyone's supportive. With Nolan, superb. I mean, he doesn't particularly want to be in the public glare or whatever else, but you won't find a better coach than Nolan anywhere for the technical detail and the way he can develop players. absolutely fantastic. Greg's as good a physio as you're going to get anywhere in levels anywhere. You know, the fitness side of it, the scouting, the number of games we cover. We'll have scouts out every night. I'm going to a game Good Friday, then the Tuesday after, which is brilliant because there's a game Saturday, Monday, and I'm watching Friday and Tuesday. Last week we didn't have a game. I think there was a game Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was at Luton Friday. We watch an unbelievable number of games because.
How did you survive Christmas Day without a match?
I know, just about. That's why it was a good unboxing day, I think. But I think. No, but I think that it's not just me. That's other scouts. You know, Ben Strang, he does an unbelievable amount of work out on the road all the time watching games because we need to sign players, but we can't afford to. We can't do that. But Andy Pugh, honestly, the amount of thought I had with that, 15 grand. It's like we don't want to be getting that one wrong. We spent some money on Harrison Dunk, but they're investments, and they're someone who we probably watched him and Pewey probably watched 8 or 9 times. Season ticket holders at Welling almost, because we know we've got to get them right, and I think we've got to be. It's so difficult to sign players. We go for a player and then he's picked off by a big club that we can't compete with. We have to be ahead of everyone because they've got more money than us. So we have to work really hard at all those things because ultimately you're as good as your players. And any manager that tells you different is a liar. No manager's that good that if your players aren't good enough that he can be a good manager.
Okay, shall we just take one more question?
Could I ask another one of you, a completely different question, sorry.
Okay.
It's probably yourself, David,
right.
person to answer this. Going back to the stadium, actually, I went to the last stadium meeting a few weeks ago, and I was left a little bit confused with regards to the timescales. Because Grosvenor, in one sentence, were talking about that the green belt wasn't up for renewal until 2015, and I apologise if I get the dates a bit wrong here. But they were, on the other hand, they were talking about putting a proposal forward at the end of this year. Now, there's a big gap there, so what do you believe is the real timescale here that they're working to?
Sorry. I get invited to these planning meetings because I talk about the trust, you see.
Yeah.
And however much we love Cambridge United Football Club, I think the planners and the council and all the authorities, we have a far better case when we start talking about the impact we can have on the community at large rather than just who's the first team player. Different options really. And one is to wait for, like you say, I think it's 2014-15. Our green belt is going to be re-designated, and so that's one option. The other option is to be more bullish and to put a planning application in that then demands inspection, and then I believe it can go basically through to the government who can give for a special cause or a special reason. So I think it's just how quick they think they can push the thing through. And as a club, all we've got to try and do at the moment is try, and that's why the game's so important, is try and create some momentum. Because if we create some momentum and some public opinion that this is good for Cambridge, and it's good for Cambridge economically, it's good for Cambridge for the community at large, and it's not just for Cambridge United, that gives them a better opportunity to fast track things and go for it, be a bit more bullish, than if we can't create any public opinion that says it's good for Cambridge, then I think it's going to take a lot longer.
And like for season ticket holders, 1,300 of us, get 5 people along, and we've got a crowd of 6,500. You know, that's what we're asking you to do. Get your granny out of her wheelchair. We've got a few disabled spaces. Yeah, bring them all on. You know, wheel them out. Year old, it doesn't matter. Just bring them all out and get them up here.
I think just to go back to that stadium, I mean, I've been very lucky. I've seen the design of it, and it's unbelievable. It's awesome. And I remember the very first meeting I went to. Someone cynically asked Grosvenor what they're in it for, and they said profit and reputation. And they're certainly concerned with the second as much as the first from what I've seen. And the sporting facilities around that stadium, not just for Cambridge United Football Club, but for other sports, and our dream, if you like, of having an indoor dome where we can just use it 24/7 all through the year. If you think that we coach 3,000 kids in a minute, and that's growing every year, what we could be capable of doing with that sort of facility, then you sort of say, you know, Colchester have got a community stadium, I think, because it's got the word community in it. You know, if you've ever been there, it's in a car park on the end next to the A12. There's nothing community about it whatsoever. But if we could actually create something where Cambridge United is coaching 10, 12, 15,000 kids a year, that's a pretty amazing thing to be able to do for the community, I think. And that's what we've got to try and get through to the planners and to the authorities and the residents of Trumpington and Hawkston and Hoxton and everything like that, because it's got to be something that is not just for us, it's for Cambridge as a whole.
So get out selling, and we'll be tweeting and whatever.
For once, we're going to let the players tweet. Now Platty's left, we've calmed down.
We'll just take one final question.
How many players are you looking to sign during the summer?
That's a good question. I don't want to put a number on it because Aaron's got his pen handy, but
We're saying to put his pen away and give us an answer.
I think that the only reason I won't give you a number is that might suggest how many players we're going to retain. I think that we need to be 4 or 5 players stronger than what we've been this year. If that answers you.
That's a good answer.
Is that
So,
squad players or
that's players.
players?
So what I'm saying is stronger. So we've got to make sure that if we have 5 or 6 injuries, we don't have players playing their first 10 games in this league straight in the team. We've got to make sure that, and then we've got to get the balance right of developing our own players that we feel will be capable of playing and excelling in this league versus being strong enough to compete in the short term. That's a bit of a skill that we've got to make sure that we do. But I think that we've got to add to the squad and obviously not, I think someone put it quite well, like build, not rebuild. So we've got to add to the strengths that we've had this year and improve by bringing players in that can give real competition for places, rather than Harrison's injured, we haven't got a left winger. You know, Ash is injured, we've got very inexperienced players to come in. Gash is injured, we've got a very inexperienced centre forward to come in. That's what we've got to avoid next year. We've got enough competition, strength and depth, so that if injuries happen we can handle it, but also it gives us the opportunity to rotate players and not play them every single minute of every single game, which has been a problem as well for us.
Can I make one comment? Tonight has been so positive, it's really good. But we don't sell this club.
No.
We don't sell it in Cambridge.
Exactly.
So we will read in the Cambridge News right the way through the song, season tickets are down, we're not signing anybody, the club is crap.
No.
Why don't you sell this?
By tomorrow night,
Don't sell it.
tomorrow's Cambridge News, it'll be a positive story. But tomorrow we've got the players in the Grand Arcade.
We have got a fancy. The one
Yeah.
thing you should do is also give this guy a 10-year contract.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things that's ever happened
Exactly.
to United.
Yeah.
You've got to keep this man.
And I think the trouble is, with our club, we've been on a decline for so long, and also, you know, we've had to restructure and do everything. Now we've got the foundation to go forward, and we've got something to sell, and we've got a good message, and it's all of us that come, the 2,000 of us, we need to go out and give that positive message. We can't just do it as a club, we need all of you to do it as well. As I say, fill up the stadium for the West Ham game, and we're here to support you, the board's here to support you. You can see next year we're going to start off in a good financial position and we're going forward. We want you to come with us on that journey, supporters club, VPs, everybody, and we'll get there. And we've got a fantastic manager, well, most of the time, and you know, and we've got Mark and all the other teams all working together, putting in hours and hours, and we will succeed. And the way you will succeed is by being positive and getting out there and telling them what a good club we are. And that's why you've got this pyramid. I nearly said triangle. You've got the pyramid. That's what we should be proud of. 10,000 kids get involved in this club every year, and it's through their hard work that we are where we are. So be proud. Be united. United in endeavour. Homewards!